You can always give advice to people, say this and say that, and they can turn around and say, well, you don't know me, how can you know? But I do know you, because you're just like me. And I can be blunt, honest with you, that you know what, I would never, never, never wish this on anybody. Because you know what, you're ahead, your life right now, it's done. If you put that needle in your arm right now, you don't even realize this, your life is done. And I heard many, 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 many of the good ones, oh, not me, I can handle this. And they didn't. You can't. You will have no control of any part of your life no more. Ooh, my name, I keep my name anonymous. The whole thing about that is just not the name, it's about the things that we go through out here. And everybody out here pretty much goes through almost the same thing. So I'm gonna keep the name thing out of it, you know what I mean? We'll just say, I don't know, whatever you want to say. But I'm gonna keep my name out of it just for,
you're good.
yeah,
So
okay.
how long you been out here for?
8 years now. 8 years and I'm 8.5 years. Yeah, 8.5 years now. Yeah. And I remember from the beginning, I remember exactly how I ended up out here. Shoot, man, I can tell you one thing. Even if a doctor ends up out here tomorrow, and it's true and it's real, this can even happen to a doctor. And this can happen to anybody. You never know where life's going to lead you. You never know how the economy's going to go. You never know if you're going to have enough to pay the rent. So on top of that, on top of how high it is, the cost of living to live for the average person, and on top of what led me here from the beginning, it goes back to when I was young. Things that happened when I was young, things I did, things, you know what I mean? So it just didn't happen overnight. Right? Something happened for any, I'm going to say this true because I know it's true. Every addict that's out here, and maybe 90% of the people that are homeless are addicts. They use something in one shape or form. But there's some out here that are clean too. But you know what? The addiction is the beginning of the end. So I can say once I started doing that, that was the beginning of I didn't know what was coming, being homeless. You know what I mean? What else would really led me, and I'll be honest about this, and you know what I mean? You think about really, because of my own inability or my own refusing to take personal responsibility in my life. I didn't be responsible for nothing. You know, I wasn't taught, you know, I eat too, you know. It's nobody else's fault, you know what I mean? But, you know, at times like that, when you get in that mindset at that point, you know what I mean? It's honest, that's some lazy ass shit, dog, you know what I mean? Man up and handle your business, dog. But you know, once you don't start wanting to be responsible, wanting to do anything, you know what I mean? And then you start doing prison time and jail time, that becomes comfortable, because you know why? You don't got the responsibilities. You know, so, you know, compared to a young man or a young woman that has some good role models and is taught a lot of things, work ethics and stuff, and how to be responsible and how important it is to be responsible, and then you have some that don't even want it, eventually it's going to lead to something bad. You know, so you're asking me how I end up out here? I don't know. I didn't see it coming. Addiction played a big part of it. For me, myself, I'm very irresponsible. You know? I didn't want to pay rent. You know, I didn't want to do none of that.
Did
you know? Go ahead.
Do you have your parents in your life growing up?
Yeah. My parents, wow, good shot. You seen that? Ooh, see that shit?
Right in there.
Come on, yeah. Right, no, as far as my parents, yeah, I mean, I bet, my real father was there until I was 5 years old. My real mom, my real dad, they separated, and I was raised by my stepdad. So I did have a male and a female throughout my time. They were there, did the best they could, you know. Come to find out later on that my dad, you know, my stepdad, my dad, you know, he's a heroin addict. You know what I mean? Later on in life, you know what I mean? Now I knew why I seen the things that I seen when I was younger. You know, it's not his fault. He's a heroin addict.
What about your drug of choice?
Heroin. I did heroin the first time when I was 16 years old, and I fell immediately in love with it. Immediately I fell in love with it. But also one thing too, when I was younger and I seen a lot of stuff that when I was with my dad, you know what I mean? It kept that picture in my head, you know, constantly. All I did was want to be next to my dad. I come running to my mom. Mom, he's turning blue again, he OD'd. You know, seeing that thing when I was younger over and over and over. You know, going to the shooting galleries, you know what I mean, seeing the older guys, you know what I mean. I never physically saw them head on, but I just wanted to peek in because I see where Dad's at. That's my dad, you know? So being that, you know what I mean, like seeing all this stuff, and I hadn't done none heroin yet, right? It opened up a big curiosity window. Big curiosity window. So, you know, Pops, you know what I mean, had the older friends, I used to hang around with them. They used to use my room to cut the dope, right? And give me money, right? All I did was beer and weed at the time. And even $20, I'd buy beer and weed. Go in there one day and I see, you ain't taking kind of long. I go in there to check on the first time using heroin to see if they're done yet. They weren't done yet, but they said, you want some? I said, no, I'm good. I go back inside, wait for them, come back. By that time, I'm drunk a little bit. I got some beer balls, and I said, give me some. Remember, I had all these mental pictures in my head, you know what I mean?
What age were you?
Right? 16.
16?
Yeah.
I see your age.
Yeah. I look at it now, I see these kids in school, man. If anyone wants to start something that powerful, their lives are done. Their lives are done. Or I got a question, too.
Yeah, go ahead.
So if I was to ask you, from all the knowledge that you have and what you're studying on that you know of, is addiction a disease?
Yes.
Good, okay, that's your answer there. Good.
That's it.
Okay, whatever. Nobody can take that from you. Okay, now the doctors in the society really actually acknowledge it as disease, being a disease. Addiction is a disease.
Yes.
Okay, now the thing with that. Okay, now we got this disease. You know what I mean? With the flu, we have an addiction now. At the beginning of the day, though, it's a disease of choice. Because nobody put a gun to my head and nobody X, Y, and D, right? And maybe I said, yes, give me. So it's a disease that's a choice. Or not to choose and be irresponsible and not do nothing. You don't even know that, guess what? This is probably the end result for everybody that makes that decision. You're looking straight at dead in the head. You're gonna end up homeless or dead.
Yeah.
Or dead.
It's real.
And that's the real part of it. It is.
And then for
It
yourself,
is.
have you ever seek treatment or anything like that?
Yeah, a few times. And you know what, as funny as it may sound that, you know what I mean, I rip and ran out here for years and years and years, pick up a case that leads me to prison, and guess what? That's the time I get to rest, and that turned into my program. Odd way. Getting no other way, so I became completely comfortable with being in prison. Not only was I able to, because I loved being clean. At the end of the day, I loved being clean, right?
Yeah,
so, yeah,
you, know, like
yeah,
in a way.
yeah, sometimes it does. And okay, cool, you know? Outside programs, yes. It's one thing that did work all these years. I remember now when I was younger, getting to my addiction, my family said, go to a program. But you know what I said? Well, first to say, fuck a program, completely blunt, but that's how I felt. I didn't want to do no program, but I didn't know what they can do for somebody. Until I finally, and it took years, this is after 7 prison terms, I finally said, I have to do something. And I accepted, and I went into a program. And that one program that I went into, it kept me clean for 4.5 years. You know, when I couldn't even think about one day, you know what I mean? So it did work. Yeah. It did work. It goes for anything you put into, you're gonna get out. Yep. And yeah, I love programs. There's a person out there that got to a point where he's really thinking, he hadn't done it yet, but he's thinking about using. Will my advice be to him or them? Oh my God. You can always give advice to people, say this and say that, and they can turn around and say, well, you don't know me, how can you know? But I do know you, because you're just like me. And I can be blunt, honest with you, that you know what, I would never wish this on anybody. Because you know what, you're ahead, your life right now, it's done. If you put that needle in your arm right now, you don't even realize this, your life is done. And I heard many of the good ones, oh, not me, I can handle this. They didn't. You can't. You will have no control of any part of your life no more. Don't do it. Please don't do it. Don't do it. You know? God. We're talking about the person that's been in it for a number of years and struggling, is really addicted, and this addiction is heroin. Okay, I know what you're going through because I started doing heroin when I was 16 years old. Back then, as I was growing up, all we had to detox from, and everybody of us know how hard it is to detox. It does not feel good. And we'll do anything it is to feel quote unquote normal again. And you know what I'm talking about. And all we had then was something they call methadone. And all that is one drug facing another, because methadone is sometimes far more powerful than the heroin, and methadone gets inside your joints and your bone marrow, right? It gets deep in your body, and you will suffer worse than you did with the heroin from detoxing. We either had that, or we went to the county jail and kicked cold turkey. And we all know what both of them are about. And it's no joke. So, today's changed. Today, there's a substance out called Suboxone. And it works. It really, really is a miracle. Out of all my years of suffering and kicking going out and kicking the dope, I did not want to get on methadone because I knew what that was about, and pretty much you're done there too. Although there are people that can't function on methadone, so be it, I choose not to. But when I found the Suboxone and I found out that you don't have to suffer no more, I advise, you know what I mean, please do the Suboxone. Follow protocol because it will save your life.